Allies or Enemies by Peachiibunnii, Chapter 21. Scar didn't know how he managed it, but after reassuring the other he wasn't going anywhere, Scar managed to get Grian to a calm state. Of course, he couldn't tell the blonde he was still upset about a few things and still very sensitive, but he was ready to put in the work and listen to anything Grian was willing to tell him about. Grian was sitting cross-legged on Scar's bed, while Scar sorted through his clothes to offer to Grian. He held up a far too large shirt for Grian to look at. Grian smiled and shook his head. Not that one either, he chuckled, seemingly knowing something Scar didn't. It wasn't spoken upon. It wasn't spoken upon he'd be staying the night, but it was dark and very late, and they both had work in the morning. All right, I know one of these will do, Scar insisted, filtering through his casual closets. He heard Grian laughing, and that assured him enough. Having Grian so close to the hidden one was a little scary, but he was far too focused on finding a shirt Grian was willing to sleep in. What about? Scar began, turning to glance at the other. He hesitated before pulling at the collar of his shirt. Do you want this one? He asked in surprise. He was amused when Grian nodded with a large grin, though. Scar couldn't help but laugh too. Why, it's so old and doesn't even look good, Scar mumbled, but still willing to give Grian anything he wanted. Grian shrugged. It's already warm, the blonde explained. Then he said something that stuck with Scar. Plus, it smells like you. Scar held on to that thought. For an odd reason, it felt so familiar. I didn't know I smelled. Scar teased back. Oh, I didn't know I smelled, Scar teased back, but moved closer to his friend, sitting at the edge of the bed. Is it good or bad? He asked instead. Grian only laughed, pressing a finger to his chin. He leaned in a little closer, which only made Scar laugh so hard he ended up laying on his back. Wait, come back. I have to figure out if you smell good or not, Grian teased, but made no effort of leaning down or getting closer to find out. I'm sure I smell decent at best, Scar joked, looking up at the blonde. Grian seemed to be content just looking at Scar. It clicked in his brain that he may have wanted the shirt. He raised himself to his elbows, pointing to his chest. You want it now? He asked, watching Grian's eyes shift from his chest to Scar's face. Oh, no, I'm right. The way Grian got quieter, losing energy, didn't go unnoticed by Scar. He was sitting up within seconds, leaning over to look at Grian, but letting him keep his personal space. Hey, you okay? He whispered, knowing a multitude of thoughts and emotions were running through his head. Grian smiled softly, shrugging. Yeah, I guess, he began. Scar was waiting for him to continue, waiting to ask if he wanted to talk after a long pause, but Grian beat him to it. It was just an emotional weekend. An absolute wreck, Grian whispered, shifting his knees closer so he could fold in on himself. He pressed his chin to his knees, hugging them close. Scar frowned, feeling guilty for some of the stress. He gently reached out to press a warm palm to Grian's back, feeling the blonde's shoulders droop. He slowly pat his knuckles up and down Grian's spine, avoiding the scars. Do you want to talk to me about it? He offered. I know I wasn't there when you needed me, but I want to be when I am able, Scar confessed. Grian remained quiet, but relaxed. The silence stretched for a longer time than Scar would have liked. Judging by the way he knew Grian, though, he was thinking of a handful of things to say. Hey, Scar whispered, pulling Grian from his thoughts. Whatever you choose to land on, I'll be understanding, Scar assured him. He watched Grian's face shift, somehow looking more relaxed. Can I have your shirt now? He landed on, and Scar was quick to take the article of clothing off. Grian laughed under his breath, happily taking it. He pulled off his own shirt and clothing, leaving them both shirtless for a moment before pulling Scar's shirt over his head. Once he was situated, he shifted to crawl around the bed. Scar led him, confused in his methods, but learned not to question his friend at this point. He watched Grian writhe around in bed, crawling his way under the blankets. He only moved to stand up when the blonde kept nudging him. Scar laughed, gathering Green's clothes to set them on the nightstand. Apologies for sitting where your feet would like to rest, Scar teased, moving to turn the room light off. Is this your way of telling me you're ready to sleep? He asked, fiddling with his nightstand light. Green pressed his face into Scar's pillow, nodding gently at him. Scar didn't mind the other growing quiet, merely moving in next to him. He lifted the blanket and moved to lay down himself, turning to look at Green expectantly. He knew Green wanted something, he just didn't know what. Green picked up on his stare and smiled, immediately moving to lay in the middle of the bed, scrubbing his way onto Scar's pillow. His hands brushed against Scar's shoulder and arm as he stared at the brunette. Green's smile shifted, and Scar immediately noticed the serious gaze. If I tell you stuff, you won't tell anyone, right? He whispered. Scar shifted to lay on his side to face the other more. Of course not. You're important to me. Whatever you tell me is a secret in my mind. Scar grinned. Green didn't seem to accept this, though, speaking more clearly again. I'm serious. I know you have a tendency to let little secrets slip out and accidentally reveal things, but this, you can't tell anyone. He pressed the concern further. Scar frowned, knowing he was clumsy and a little careless at times. He nodded, though, wanting the other to trust him. I can promise. I'll do my best. I'll try my hardest. Grian frowned at that, but seemed it would be good enough. He began, looking down. Can you hold me? Grian asked instead. Scar immediately shifted to open his arms, pulling Grian in with ease. One hand rested in his hair, gently pressing down curls, while the other pulled him closer by the waist. Newly situated, he sighed softly, burying his face into the other's neck. I received some bad news this weekend about my parents. The blonde seemed to pause, thinking of words and how to say things. Well, parent, it's messy, I think. Green began. I don't want to talk about it. He finally broke off from his thoughts. Scar slid a hand over Green's back, gently running his fingers over his spine again. Hey, it's okay. You don't need to tell me anything, sunshine, he whispered. Is there anything I can do for you as well as listen? He asked, wanting to comfort the other in any way possible. Green shrugged, staying quiet. You know, he began. No, I think I just need a second. Sorry. The other laughed, and Scar's heart melted. Don't apologize. Don't push yourself either. You don't have to tell me anything. We're talking because I want to make you feel better, but if it's overwhelming or stressing you out, we can stop. I'm just here to support and care about you, Scar whispered. Brian smiled against Scar's collarbone, his cheek pressed into Scar's skin. I'm talking to you to open up and get uncomfortable. Trying to talk about things with someone. It's harder than I thought, Green admitted. We can stop. We can do anything you want to, Scar whispered into Green's curls. Thank you, Green said simply, his voice much lighter and cheerful. I'm adopted, kind of. I didn't know until I was about 10. I can't really remember, but I never knew my birth parents growing up. I still don't know them, and I guess recently I've been thinking a lot about them. My adopted parents passed away, but it's weird. Still having parents, but Grin trailed off, rubbing his face. Scar took this as a sign to try and calm him again. Shh, I'm here, he whispered, putting the hand on Grin's back to pull his hands away from his face. I do kind of understand. Not well. My parents passed away when I was in my mid-20s. All I had was my childhood best friend and roommate at the time. It was weird. It was new, living without a blood family, but you're making the most of it. You still have your sister? Gran smiled at that. Yeah, I love her a lot. She was there for me when you first started talking to me tonight, actually. Skull winced a little. It's a good thing. She's oftentimes a voice of reason when it comes to emotions. I'm her logical thinker, and she's my emotional reader, Green explained, before letting out a small laugh. Skull smiled at him, adoring the way they described each other. You complete one another. That's healthy though. Would she be considered your best friend? Scar asked, trying to make the blonde focus more on the positive things in his life rather than open up too many sad conversations. Green hummed in thought, his serious expression shifting around a bit. Maybe? I would reflexively say you, but she knows more about me, obviously. She knows things not even Jimmy knows, Green mumbled. Scar paused. If he wasn't laying down with his head pressed into the pillow, he'd tilt his head in confusion. Jimmy? Scar asked. The college. Oh, wait, he's your cousin. Green cut him off, and Scar's brain faltered. Scar opened his mouth before closing and reopening it. Finally closing it. Jimmy is your cousin? Scar asked in surprise. Green blinked, his eyebrows lowering in confusion. Yeah. Did you not know that? Green asked with a laugh. In my defense, I am rarely told anything. Scar had a point. I didn't know you had a sister until, like, what, 3 years after meeting you? Scar asked, thinking back on it. Let alone she was some news reporter. Yeah, Green began, eyes closed as he mumbled out words incoherently. They're my sister and cousin, but I raised them, so I just call them my siblings. Green explained. We're not actually blood related, he confessed. Oh, because you're adopted, yeah? Scar asked, feeling the other nod. Is she your adoptive parents' child? The daughter of the two who passed away? Green hummed before opening his eyes sleepily. If I'm being honest, I don't know. I highly doubt it, but I suppose it's not entirely out of the question. I should ask her, he mumbled. You could, Scar mumbled back, and finding his way back to Green's back. He gently rubbed his hip before slipping a hand under the shirt, pressing his palm to Green's lower back. He always refused to touch Green's scars, knowing the blonde had some issues with them. Just by seeing his reaction when Scar found out was enough to guess. Do you still have my shirt? Scar asked, thinking of that night. Green mused, not making any movement to sit up. My shirt. From the first time you came over? You spilled tea on yourself and... Scar trailed off, thinking of the moment they almost kissed. It was interrupted and put aside for another time. Oh, your shirt I wore home, Green mumbled, his voice sounding just a little more awake. He chuckled softly and nodded. Yeah, it's The blonde paused beneath Scar. Scar glanced down, unable to see his face. It's in my room. I just kind of have it on my bed, he mumbled, his voice getting quieter. Scar smiled at that answer. You sleep with it every night, huh? Scar teased, figuring that's why the other had gotten so shy. Green's hand found Scar's side, gently pinching him. Scar let out a noise of protest, his own hand gently grabbing at Green's hip. Green grumbled in response, but lit up. So what if I do? The blonde asked. Scar slid his hand back under Green's shirt, pretending to think about the question. I wouldn't mind, really, Scar confessed. I don't even remember which one it is, Scar continued, fingertips brushing against the edge of one of Green's scars. He trailed his thumb over the end of one before placing his hand comfortably between them again. You don't have to be so gentle, Green changed topics, confusing Scar. You can touch them. Scar was concerned to touch his scars. Green seemed hesitant in his mind. It wasn't something inherently bad, but he knew it took a lot of trust for Green to offer this to him. Scar's hand raised to his shoulder blade, gently laying itself down. It fit nicely into the divot, fingers poking out of the shirt near Green's neck. He slowly dragged his hands down the ruined skin. It was surprisingly soft. Scar could feel the edges of where it starts and ends. His mind wandering to the time he saw Exelka's back, wondering if these scars were the same. He gently pressed his fingers into them, feeling the skin squish under his hand. Scar didn't hear Green make any noise. Nervous, he may be making the other nervous. His hands stilled and he whispered, Did they hurt? When he didn't get a response, he shifted to glance down at Green, unable to see his face that well. Grin? Scar saw Grin slowly opening his eyes, glancing at Scar's face. For a brief moment, they flashed in the dark. Scar glanced behind him to find no source of light, confused why they were glimmering. Hmm? The blonde hummed, taking a deep breath, only to move closer into Scar. Scar couldn't help but smile, his thumb rubbing around the Scar's skin. Your scars, do they hurt? He asked. Grin hummed quietly, Scar feeling the vibration through his back. No, Grin replied as if he didn't know. Sometimes I feel phantom pains, but they never hurt themselves. Grin replied, sounding unsure of himself even. Scar hummed, continuing his gentle touches. Scar let out his own heavy breath, body relaxing against Grin's. His hand glided up and down in thought. He debated asking Grin how he got them. He vaguely wondered if that would scare him. Grin didn't know about any of his scars, so it wasn't fair to ask him how he got his. Grin made a small noise, almost a mix of a hum and a chirp, before tilting his head back, his nose brushing against Scar's jaw. Scar glanced down, their eyes meeting in the dark. What do you think, Matt? Grin whispered, one of his hands sliding up to touch Scar's face. Scar smiled, feeling the other run his fingers over his cheek and ears, tracing shapes along the outline of his face. You? Scar replied easily, watching Grin smile falter momentarily. He watched the other's demeanor change briefly. Grin lifted his head, their noses gently brushing. He felt Grin smile against his chin, gazing up at him. It made Scar's smile come back. He didn't know who started it, but he felt Grin's lips brush against his smile. It was calculated, slow, hesitant, as if all of this would be taken away if Grin was a centimetre off. Scar didn't rush it, feeling the other's lips continuously graze his own. It was never a full kiss. Lips brushed and hushed breaths were passed to the skin under their noses. It tickled with how light Grin was being. He felt Grin close his mouth, swallowing quietly, but never rushed him. There was some distance, and his head moved much closer. Scar waited patiently. Grin's eyes were full of fear, hesitant but full of hope. They were half-lidded, gazing at Scar's lips. It was warm and inviting to feel Grin so close. Scar was so proud of how far he'd come, opening up, letting people in, letting him in. Grin kissed him. It took Scar by surprise at first, the first few seconds being gentle and chaste. Scar watched Grin's eyes slide shut finally, his own following shortly after. Grin's finger twitched against Scar's cheekbone, pressing gently to his skin. Scar's hand was pressed firmly into Grin's back, thumb rubbing at the edge of his scar. It was gentle, warm. Grin's lips were soft. The kiss meant nothing to Scar compared to the trust and dedication it took for Grin to commit and go through with it of his own free will. Kissing Grin felt like the other had finally let him in. It tasted even better, like the like the disgustingly sweet coffee the other always drank. It felt like warm brushes over his skin and small hearts being traced onto his cheek. It felt like all the pieces Scar worked so hard to pick up and help slot back together finally formed a masterpiece behind his eyelids. Grin's lips loitered against his own when he finally pulled away. The lips stuck together slightly before quietly separating. Scar's eyes fluttered open, being met with Grin's ease state. He looked far too comfortable under Scar's gaze. Scar merely smiled, their noses still brushing together. Grin didn't say anything, just smiled slightly himself, and moving to hold Scar's neck. Scar was taken aback a bit when Grin kissed him. Scar was taken aback a bit when Grin kissed him again, smiling lips pressing together rather than kisses full of the fear of the unknown. The kiss was confidence. It wasn't rushed or forced, but it was happier, full of joy, full of confidence, full of life, full of something Scar couldn't get enough of. Scar inhaled through his nose, hand gently sliding to Grin's waist to hold him close. Grin hummed behind his smile, a bold action sneaking its way into the kiss. His lips gently moved. Scar hummed in surprise, which made Grian let out a small laugh into his mouth. Scar couldn't help his own smile, baring his teeth, accidentally ending the kiss. Grian allowed the other to pull away so they could finally look at each other. Grian was tucking stray hairs behind Scar's ear. His gentle hands caressed Scar's face, treating the other with such sincerity. Scar gave Grian their third kiss, keeping it brief and short. It lasted a second maybe, but Scar was pleased when the other reciprocated, even for the half of a second he registered the kiss. Scar stayed quiet, simply staring at the blonde. His gaze must have made Grian nervous, because soon the blonde began chewing his lip. Scar reached up to pull his lip gently with his thumb, frowning at the blonde. "Why the sudden pout?" he whispered. Grian smiled, tracing more shapes and lines into Scar's cheek. "Love you." Scar was taken by complete surprise. His concerned expression shifted to a grin at lightning speed. He beamed, pressing another kiss to Grian's lips, getting a small noise from the blonde. "I love you too," he whispered into Grian's mouth, giving him multiple kisses, one after another. Grian tried to give some back, but only found himself smiling and laughing, teeth sometimes meeting in the middle of it all. Grian tilted his head back, but was only met with kisses to his jaw and chin. Grian pulled away, only to be pulled back in with Scar's hand against his back. Grian sighed happily and looked at Scar once more, a smile never once leaving his face. Scar kissed him one last time for good measure, just to get the point across. "I'm never going to stop loving you," Scar promised. "Never?" Grian asked, opening his heart up to the other. "Ever," Scar promised again, giving the other yet another kiss. "Oh, that was cute. Can I say how awkward it is for me to read this? Guys, I'm pretty sure my family can hear me talking, so I get really, really soft in those scenes. I can hear my brother talking in the opposite room. So yeah, then again he yells, but like that's besides the point. That is actually super cute. Hey, they're happy. Look at them being happy. I'm happy for them. It's a good thing they get to be happy, because I'm pretty sure their superhero alter egos are not gonna be happy with each other whatsoever. Well, that'll be funny to watch. Love identity shenanigans. It's so silly. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Tell me what you thought in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.